Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, around 3 o'clock, and just laid there, eyes wide open, heart racing, wondering why? You check the time, 3:03 in the morning. You're not in pain, there's no noise, but something is stirring. And it's not just you. Millions of people all over the world report waking up around the same hour, between 3 and 4 a.m., feeling alert, unsettled, or strangely clear. Maybe you've tried rolling over, pulling the blanket tighter, even praying a bit, then giving up and scrolling your phone in the dark. But let me ask you this. What if your waking up isn't random? What if God is calling you, in the stillness, before the world wakes, while the veil is still thin between heaven and earth? Here's something interesting. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, says he starts checking emails every day at exactly 3:45 in the morning. He calls it his productivity hour. Meanwhile, across the country, Kimberly Harris, a single mom of 3 in Houston, says, "I don't check email at 3 a.m., I pray, because I believe God is visiting me." Two very different lives. Two completely opposite responses to the same mysterious hour. So let me ask you gently, which one are you? Are you a Tim Cook, jumping into the day before the sun? Or a Kimberly, listening for God in the quiet? Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle, not even sure what's waking you up in the first place. Whatever your answer, you're not alone. And it's not just coincidence. In this video, we're going to explore what might actually be happening when you wake up at this sacred hour. We'll look at the science of sleep, the spiritual significance behind each early morning time slot, and most importantly, we'll show you what to do next time it happens. Because what if, just what if, this moment is an invitation from God? So, why is this hour, this quiet, often lonely hour between 3 and 4 in the morning, so powerful? Let's start with something most people don't realize. From a scientific perspective, this is one of the most active moments in your brain's nightly cycle. Around this time, typically between 3 and 5 a.m., you're in what researchers call REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. Now, REM is where your brain does the heavy lifting of processing emotions, organizing memories, and even dreaming. But here's the paradox. Even though you're in deep sleep, this is also the easiest phase to wake up from. And if you do, your mind is wide open, suspended between the subconscious and full consciousness. Dr. Matthew Walker, a leading neuroscientist at the University of California, Berkeley, explains that around this hour, your melatonin levels, that's the sleep hormone, begin to drop, while your brain's alertness slowly increases. In other words, your body is gently transitioning from the realm of dreams to the realm of waking. And if you wake up right in that moment, you're standing at the edge of both. But here's where it gets deeply spiritual. For centuries, long before sleep studies and lab research, mystics, prophets, and everyday believers have talked about what they sensed during these early morning hours. They described it as the time when the veil between heaven and earth is thinnest, a sacred window where the soul is more sensitive, more alert, more willing to hear. Rabbi Jason Sobel, who teaches from both Jewish and Christian traditions, refers to this time frame as Ashmoret HaBoker, the final watch of the night, when ancient Hebrew priests would rise to pray. And many devout Muslims, practicing tahajjud, wake intentionally in this same window to seek God's guidance in stillness. So why do so many people, across faiths and generations, feel drawn to the same hour? Is it coincidence? Or is there something divine embedded in that design? Let's be honest, though. Not everyone thinks it's sacred. Some mental health professionals, like Dr. Thema Bryant, who serves as president of the American Psychological Association, point out that nearly 40% of people with anxiety disorders report waking between 2 and 4 a.m. She reminds us that our bodies carry stress into sleep, and sometimes that stress wakes us up. And then there's the modern lifestyle. A 2023 study from Stanford found that people who scroll social media late at night, especially TikTok or YouTube, are twice as likely to wake between 2 and 3 a.m., with racing thoughts and disrupted rest. Could it be that we're so overstimulated that our brains no longer know how to rest? It's a fair question. And that's why we're not here to give you easy answers. We're here to invite you to look deeper. Because here's the thing. Even if stress or screens wake you up, what if God still wants to meet you there anyway? What if that restless moment, that sudden awareness in the darkness, isn't just biological or psychological, but an invitation? What if the very time the world calls insomnia, heaven calls access? So the next time you find yourself awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't panic. Don't reach for your phone right away. Don't rush to fix it. Just pause. Breathe. Listen. Because what comes next might just change everything. Now let's go even deeper. What does it actually mean if you wake up specifically between 1 and 2 in the morning? For many people, this hour carries a heavy emotional weight. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet heaviness. You wake up and there's no noise, no nightmare, no physical discomfort, but your heart feels stirred. Something's pressing. Maybe it's subtle, or maybe it's overwhelming. Either way, it feels like your soul won't rest. According to spiritual teachers, waking between 1 and 2 a.m. is often connected to internal conflict, and not just surface-level stress, but deep, buried concerns that your subconscious may be trying to bring up. Worries about your future. Questions about a decision. A hurt you thought you had let go of, but it's still there. Lingering, unsettled. This hour isn't just quiet, it's exposing. And here's what makes it powerful. This hour holds the energy of reflection. When we wake during this window, we're given a brief but precious chance to look inward, not with shame or panic, but with holy curiosity. You're not being punished. You're being invited. God may be whispering, "Let's talk about what you've been avoiding." Sarah Mitchell, a tax professional in Des Moines, shared something vulnerable. She said, "I started waking up at 1:27 every night. At first, I thought it was stress, but then I realized I was carrying fear of losing my job, of failing as a mother. So I started journaling 3 things. What am I afraid of? What is the lie I'm believing? And what would it look like if God was in control?" And night after night, that became her quiet rhythm of peace. And you know who else wrestled at night with deep uncertainty? Joseph of Nazareth. The Gospels tell us that when Joseph discovered Mary was pregnant, and they weren't yet married, he was deeply troubled. He planned to quietly leave her. But then, in a dream, an angel appeared. And the message was clear. "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to stay. Do not be afraid of what others think. Do not be afraid to obey what you don't fully understand." Joseph woke up, changed, not just emotionally comforted, but resolved. He acted on the message he received while half asleep, heartbroken, unsure. And that wasn't the only time. When Herod sought to kill the Christ child, another dream came. "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt." And Joseph didn't wait for sunrise. He moved. He listened in the night. He trusted God in the dark. So what about you? If you find yourself awake between 1 and 2, don't dismiss it. Don't brush it off as random. Instead, ask, what's God trying to bring to the surface? Sometimes it's guilt that needs grace. Sometimes it's fear that needs truth. Sometimes it's just silence. But that silence creates space to breathe. You don't have to do anything big. You don't need a 10-step prayer plan. Maybe just sit up in bed. Breathe slowly. Whisper, "Lord, I'm listening." If your mind is racing, grab a journal. Write down what you're feeling. Or ask one simple question. "God, what do you want me to know tonight?" Some people also find comfort in a grounding breath, like the 4-7-8 rhythm. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Let your body slow down as your spirit listens. Now, let's be honest. Some researchers say dreams are nothing more than the brain's way of filing memories or responding to what you ate for dinner. The dream synthesis model from MIT even found that high-sodium meals before bed can lead to more vivid and chaotic dreams. So yes, biology plays a role. But that doesn't mean God can't use the biology He created to speak to you. If He spoke through a burning bush, a whisper on the mountain, and a star in the sky, why not a moment of stillness at 1:43 in the morning? So here's the challenge. Next time you wake up between 1 and 2 a.m., don't rush back to sleep out of fear. Let it be holy ground. Let it be an altar in the dark. You might be surprised what God reveals when no one else is watching, and when your soul is finally quiet enough to listen. If you're waking between 2 and 3 in the morning, night after night, it may feel different than the restless stirring of 1 a.m. It's not just emotional. It's deeper, physical, sometimes uncomfortable. You might feel uneasy in your body, or anxious without a clear reason. Some people describe it like this: my spirit feels tired, but my chest feels heavy. If that's you, pay attention. This hour is often seen as a moment of vulnerability. It's when your body is most unguarded, and your soul may be most in need of comfort, healing, or release. From a physical point of view, traditional Chinese medicine teaches that between 2 and 3 a.m., your liver is at its peak activity. The liver's job is to cleanse your system, to detoxify. But spiritually, it's a symbol too. The liver stores anger, resentment, and emotional toxins. And if you've been carrying those silently for too long, this hour may stir them up. But here's the thing. What if that stirring is a rescue? Sergeant Alejandro Torres, a retired Army veteran from Phoenix, said he used to wake up at 2:50 every single night. Not because of nightmares, but because of what he called a silent storm. His time overseas had left him with PTSD, not just flashbacks, but unspoken pain. At first he tried ignoring it. Then he started praying, raw, honest, tearful prayers. Eventually he began combining prayer with EMDR trauma therapy. And little by little, he said God used those early hours to begin healing him. Another story. Amy Nguyen, a private chef in Boston, kept waking at 2:15 a.m. Her doctor discovered she was suffering from acid reflux caused by late-night meals and stress. But Amy said something shifted when she started doing two things before bed: praying Psalm 139 and switching her dinners to oat porridge and herbal tea. Her physical healing was real, but it didn't stop her from still waking occasionally. And when I do, she says, I ask, Lord, what else needs cleansing? This hour, between 2 and 3, is not just about discomfort. It's about invitation. In 2 Kings chapter 20, we read the story of King Hezekiah. He was sick, gravely ill. And one night the prophet Isaiah came to him with a word that would shake anyone to the core. Put your house in order, for you are going to die. You will not recover. Can you imagine hearing that, alone, in the dark? But Hezekiah didn't rage. He didn't numb himself. Scripture says he turned his face to the wall and wept bitterly. And in that moment, raw and exposed, he prayed. He begged God to remember his faithfulness, to see his heart. And God did. Before Isaiah had even left the palace, the Lord told him to go back. I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you. I will add 15 years to your life. There's something holy about a prayer whispered in weakness. So if you wake up during this hour and your body is aching, or your heart is heavy, or your spirit feels dry, don't panic. Don't dismiss it. Instead, bring it to the healer. You can begin by praying something simple. Lord, here I am. Tired, hurting, maybe even confused. But I believe you're here. I believe you see me. And if you need words, let Scripture carry you. Jeremiah chapter 17 says, Heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved, for you are the one I praise. Now, some people will argue this is just biology. They'll say your cortisol cycle spikes around this hour, or your blood sugar drops, or your body's circadian rhythm is just off. And those explanations are valid, real, even helpful. There's no shame in talking to a doctor, adjusting your habits, or changing what you eat. But here's what I want you to hear. Healing is not either-or. It can be both. Maybe your stomach woke you up, but that doesn't mean your soul can't be nourished in the process. So the next time you find yourself awake at 2:30 in the morning, heart pounding, maybe even afraid, don't fight it. Don't numb it. Don't scroll past it. Ask instead, Lord, is there something you want to heal? Because in the quiet ache of that hour, God may be closer than you think. Now we've come to the hour that many people consider the most sacred and the most mysterious, 3 to 4 in the morning. If you've ever woken up around this time and felt different, like your thoughts were sharper, like the air was still but heavy with something unseen, you're not alone. There's a reason so many call this the hour of God. Across spiritual traditions and centuries, people have described this window of time as a thin place, a moment when the separation between the spiritual and physical world feels almost translucent. It's the hour when the soul hears more clearly, when the noise of the day has died, and even your fears seem to pause. And if there's any hour when God whispers, it's this one. But sometimes you don't wake up with peace. You wake up agitated, heart pounding, mind racing, maybe from a dream you don't quite remember, maybe for no reason you can name. Here's the key. You were likely in deep REM sleep, and that's the moment when your subconscious is fully alive. And if you wake then, your mind is more open to receiving, more able to remember dreams, more ready to feel. Think of it like this. Your body is still quiet, but your spirit is fully alert. That's why some of the most life-changing prayers, visions, and moments of surrender happen in this hour, not because we planned them, but because we're finally still enough to hear. Let me share this. Pastor Rick Warren, author of The Purpose-Driven Life, once told a group of pastors that his clearest sermons and deepest personal prayers often begin around 3:30 in the morning. Not in a church, not in an office, but in silence, in pajamas, with just a whisper, Lord, I'm listening. Nurse Emily Parker, who works night shifts in Denver, says she calls 3 a.m. her altar in the dark. Between emergencies and hallway lights, she sneaks away when she can, just for 60 seconds. She does a 1-minute body scan prayer, breathing deeply and saying, I belong to you, Lord, even here, even now. And then there's Jacob Lee, a software engineer in San Jose. He woke up at 3:14 every morning for weeks. At first, he dismissed it. Then he began writing down thoughts in a notebook. What started as scattered sentences became the concept for a tech product that now funds charitable housing programs. He laughs and says, God woke me up for kingdom work disguised as code. But the most sacred example of this hour comes from Jesus himself. In Matthew chapter 26, we see him in Gethsemane, the garden just outside Jerusalem. It was night. The world was asleep. But Jesus wasn't. He knew the cross was near. He knew betrayal was coming. And so he went alone, into the shadows. And he prayed. Scripture says his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He fell to the ground and cried out, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. And he did that not once, but 3 times, pouring out every drop of anguish, every trembling question, until he had peace enough to walk into his calling. This wasn't the loud part of Jesus' ministry. It wasn't a miracle or a sermon. It was surrender in the silence. So what if, when you wake up at 3 a.m., it's not because something's wrong with you, but because God is drawing you into that same garden? What if the darkness isn't danger, but intimacy? What if your moment of restlessness is actually a summons to meet the Father, while no one else is watching? Now, let's be real. Some people call this hour the witching hour. Horror films and folklore have painted 3 a.m. as a time of fear and demonic activity. And yes, spiritual warfare is real. But maybe that's not the full story. Maybe the reason this hour is fought so hard is because it's so sacred, so full of potential. The enemy knows what can happen if you answer God's call at that hour. But you don't need to be afraid. You are not alone in that room. In fact, you may be more surrounded than ever. By peace, by purpose, by a presence that doesn't need sound to be felt. If you wake during this time, consider kneeling beside your bed, or just placing a hand over your heart. Whisper the Lord's Prayer, not as ritual, but as relationship. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Let the words rise gently from your spirit. Let them be your oil lamp in the dark. As you pray, you may feel warmth rise in your chest. Tears may come, or you may simply feel stillness. That stillness is holy, too. And maybe, just maybe, as dawn begins to break, you'll sense that something shifted, not outside you, but within. Because waking at this hour isn't just about timing. It's about trusting that when God calls, He doesn't always shout. Sometimes, He wakes you in the dark and waits to see, will you sit with me? Even here? Even now? If you find yourself waking just before dawn, anywhere between 4 and 5 in the morning, you are stepping into a liminal space that feels both hushed and hopeful. The night is not quite over, yet the first promise of light is already pushing at the edge of the horizon. Many believers describe this hour as the hour of rebirth, a moment when yesterday's weight can be surrendered and today's possibilities can finally breathe. From a physiological lens, this is when the body's natural cortisol awakening response begins to rise, nudging you gently toward alertness and preparing your brain for focus. From a spiritual lens, it is the hour when Christ's resurrection was first discovered. Mary Magdalene arriving at the empty tomb as dawn's first blush colored the sky. In other words, this hour is drenched in resurrection energy. Let me ground that in real life. Former First Lady Michelle Obama once shared that she rises at about 4:30 to exercise before waking her daughters, calling it her me time of rebirth. She says the quiet helps her set the tone of grace for the entire day. Olympic legend Michael Phelps tells a similar story. He used to slip into the pool at 4 a.m. because, his words, every lap before sunrise is an advantage hour. And Carol Johnson, a retired art teacher in Seattle, wakes around 4:05. She makes tea, reads Psalm 23 aloud, and sketches whatever image of hope the passage evokes that morning. 3 radically different lives, one common thread. They meet God in the gentle blue of pre-dawn. If you wake during this window, resist the urge to roll over and scroll. Instead, recognize the invitation. The world is quiet, your mind is clear, and heaven is whispering. Let's write a fresh page together. Begin with stillness. Sit up. Plant your feet on the floor. Let your shoulders drop. Breathe slowly and thank God for the gift of a new start. Then set an intention. Ask, Lord, what is one thing you want to breathe life into today? It could be a relationship that needs forgiveness, a project that needs courage, or simply your own weary heart that needs gentleness. Some find it helpful to step outside, even for 1 minute, to feel cool air on their skin and greet the first strands of daylight. That early light signals your brain to release serotonin, the mood-balancing hormone, anchoring both body and spirit in hope. Others do a gentle stretch, read a short passage of scripture, or speak an affirmation such as, His mercies are new every morning, and this morning includes me. Of course, not every personality thrives on early wake-ups. Sleep researchers at Oxford remind us that 7 hours of quality rest often matters more than joining any 4 a.m. club, and that forcing a night owl to rise before dawn can drain afternoon focus. So here's the balanced approach. If your body naturally stirs at this hour, seize it. If it does not, do not shame yourself. God meets night owls at 10 p.m. just as faithfully as He meets larks at 4. What matters is not the clock, but the posture of the heart. But if you are waking naturally between 4 and 5, remember, this is resurrection territory. Picture the stone already rolled away, the sky barely glowing, the promise of new life still fresh with dew. Whisper the 23rd Psalm if you need language. Let each line remind you that the shepherd leads, restores, guides, protects, and overflows your cup, even before sunrise. Then, as the first golden thread slips across your bedroom wall, carry that quiet assurance into whatever the day holds. Because the miracle is not just that you woke up early, it is that you woke up with God already waiting to walk the next steps with you. So now, let's step back and take it all in. We've journeyed through the night together, from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., hour by hour, moment by moment. And what we've uncovered is simple but sacred. Each waking has meaning. Each hour has its own message, its own whisper, its own invitation from the Father. If you find yourself waking between 1 and 2 a.m., the message might be this: come to me with your questions. Lay down what you're afraid to admit. This is the hour of inner conflict, of wrestling with decisions, doubts, regrets, and letting God begin to sort them with you. If you stir between 2 and 3 a.m., you may be feeling something in your body, or your heart, or your past that needs healing. This is the hour of restoration. The hour where God gently says, let me tend to what's broken, even if you've kept it hidden. Between 3 and 4 a.m., the heart of the night, we enter sacred ground. The veil is thin, the stillness is full. This is the hour of surrender, where God may be calling you like he called Jesus in Gethsemane. Not my will, but yours be done. This is where trust is forged in silence. And from 4 to 5 a.m., the story shifts. The sky begins to brighten. This is the hour of resurrection, of renewal, of a new page turning in your life. Here God says, let's start again, together. But now comes the real question. What will you do with this? Because the power isn't just in waking up. It's in what you choose to do after you wake. Will you scroll and distract, or will you pause and respond? I want to offer you a simple rhythm, a sacred response you can follow in just 1 minute. I call it the 60-second reset. You can do this no matter which hour you wake. First, be still. Don't rush, don't react. Just sit with it. Let your soul breathe. Whisper, Lord, I'm here. Second, name what you feel, without judgment. It might be fear, fatigue, grief, or peace. Just name it honestly. Third, offer it to God. Whether in prayer or journaling or even silent surrender, hand it over. You don't have to solve it. Just release it. And finally, ask a simple question. What do you want me to know right now? Then listen. And trust that even if no words come, His presence is enough. Now, can we be honest? You're not going to get this perfect. You might forget. You might sleep through the next nudge or scroll anyway. That's okay. God is not measuring your performance. He's inviting you into a relationship, and He'll keep showing up, even in the night. Millions of people around the world are waking up in these early hours, not just because of stress or age or hormones, but because God is still speaking in the dark. And maybe, just maybe, you're one of them. So tonight, if the clock glows 1:28 or 2:50 or 3:04, don't panic, don't dismiss it. Just pause, breathe, and say, here I am, Lord, because He's already there, waiting. So maybe you've woken up night after night and wondered if it meant anything. Maybe you've prayed or panicked or just laid there in the dark, hoping you weren't alone. Now you know. You're not. You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you're definitely not the only one. You are part of a deeper rhythm, a divine pattern woven into the silence of the night, a rhythm where God often speaks when the world sleeps, where questions rise and distractions fall away, where the soul is bare and heaven leans in. So what if, from now on, you don't see these awakenings as interruptions, but as invitations? Not every night, not every time. But when it happens, when you stir before the sun, what if you paused, just long enough to say, I'm listening? Because the truth is, God often speaks in the whisper, and some of His most powerful whispers happen at 3:03 in the morning. Before we go, I want to ask you 2 things. First, would you share this with someone you know who's been waking up at night, feeling anxious, alone, or confused? You never know how deeply one video can comfort someone who's silently struggling. Second, if you've had a moment like this, a night where you sensed something divine, or received a message in a dream, or simply felt peace in the darkness, I would love for you to share it in the comments. Your story could become someone else's breakthrough. And finally, if this video spoke to you, the next one might take you even deeper. It's called 7 Prophetic Dreams and How to Know If God is Speaking to You While You Sleep. Because the truth is, sometimes God doesn't just wake you. He speaks through your dreams. So don't miss it. Until then, may your nights be filled with stillness, your mornings with clarity, and your spirit with the quiet confidence that even in the darkest hour, you are never alone. Blessings.